What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Nick of Tribe of Pazuzu. Thank you so much for being here. It is great to have you here.
What's happening? Good to be here.
It's great to have you here, man. Thank you for this incredibly brutal and dark album, Blasphemous Prophecies. This is an epic, just absolute concoction of darkness that definitely describes every foul aspect of humanity. Was there sort of like a preconceived vision of what you wanted this album to sound like, coming, from Heretical Uprising to King of All Demons, etc.? Or was this like a very organic and sort of improvisational songwriting process?
Uh, I would have to say both, actually. I mean, it's exactly what I wanted, and it was organic. Just it was just an extension of where I was coming from the last EP, King of All Demons, and just whatever influences I was hearing at the time as well, and I just wanted it to be a little bit more brutal and relentless than the past, which just means the first two EPs, really. But
Well, the first two EPs are also a force to be reckoned with, but like you said, like there was no real change in songwriting and the songwriting process going from two EPs to a full length album, right? It still sort of felt like you were picking up where you left off.
yeah, pretty much. It was just a continuation of it all, and there was like it wasn't so premeditated in that I was trying to make it into something. It's just, but it was just just an extension of it, organic, and it was just I knew I wanted more blasts and just making it a bit more relentless than it was in the past. That's all.
When with the formation of Tribe of Pazuzu, because it really is the ultimate, like I would say, super group of madness, as I like to call it, because you all have very impressive resumes. You, of course, coming from Overthrow and Soulstorm and Nihilist Death Cult, and Flow coming from Critopsy and Altamas and so on. So like with the members of each band, were you all kind of like trying to combine your different experiences together into one, or were you all trying to like basically step into uncharted territory that none of you have explored in your previous projects?
Um, yeah, I guess for me it was unexplored to a certain extent. Like except for the first two Tribe EPs, it was just something I haven't done in a while, and I wanted to. It's like when you talk to someone and they're like, "Oh, what have you done?" and or what band you in? And I name my older bands, and it's just like it just sounded so long ago, and I was just like, well, it's time to update everything and show people what I'm doing now. So that's kind of what the whole thing was. It just kind of to just leave a legacy of music, behind. So I just wanted to just focus on that and do the best work I could with the framework that I wanted to be in, and that was just the relentless style that I chose to do. And I don't want to sound like conceited about the whole thing, but there's not nobody else really added. They added their parts, but I did all the writing. So um, Flow definitely everyone stepped up on the album too, compared to the EPs, because Flow just added so much more. Like if you listen to all his drum parts, like he's doing crazy stuff all over the place, which is so amazing. And Randy really sharpened those leads this time. Like he was always great on the leads on the first two EPs, but this time he really took it to another level and just made it really just dark and just like so just brutal, I guess you could say. I don't know, like just he just gave it a whole like kind of an edge to it where it was just so crazy.
Yeah.
I
As the
don't know how
song
else to explain those leads.
Well, as the songwriter for Tribe, like when you were writing the lyrics, first off, for any project, do you always prefer to have music present before you come up with lyrical ideas, or could your lyrical ideas sort of help sort of dictate the direction of a song?
It's a little bit of both, but I don't have like I don't in the past, like I'm talking like the past, like I used to have songs like lyrics all done and ideas and everything like that, and it would go like that. But lately, I've been doing it backwards. So I've been doing like for me, so I write the music first now, and then I come out like sometimes I have a title or a couple lines here and there that I kind of have an idea where the lyrics will go. But it's usually the music is first now, and I kind of flesh that out. I have certain ideas as I go along, like, but it's always it's always like that now. The music is first, and just it's all edited down right to exactly how I want it. You know, no filler. You know.
Well, with the lyrical aspects that are demonstrated on here, were you kind of approaching this from a more personal sort of place? Is the darkness that's expressed on this album mainly coming from within, or is there a lot of observation involved? And this is more or less kind of like a song about the world around us rather than the darkness within us.
uh, I'd say a little bit of both, but I mean, it's not like personal to the extent that I maybe was with, say, like some of the Soulstorm lyrics or something like that, or it's a bit more. I mean, it's always going to have a little bit of that in it, but I think it definitely has to do with more what's out there, and like I mean, it kind of deals with almost like um, certain historical figures, you know, throughout time and stuff like that, and like you know how their involvement with darkness is, I guess, to a certain extent. Like, I mean, you got like, Countess Bathory and, Aleister Crowley and, that kind of stuff. It's really, you know, and even Nostradamus is one of the topics, but like, he's not like an evil person per se, but I mean, he's had brushes with darkness and his evil, visions and stuff like that of the future, like very, that kind of thing. So it just deals with certain aspects of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I thought that maybe there was a lot of historical aspects. I'm not sure what Pazuzu
Mm.
means, and feel free to care to explain because I felt like there's certain brutal bands where there's no denying just by looking at the title that they're a metal band. But I think that like I feel like Tribe of Pazuzu is actually like there's a lot of mystery behind it in terms of what it could be. And when I look at like a song such as "The Trial and Prosecution of the Scorned Prophet," I'm wondering if that is like a historical reference in a way. But then like a song like Countess of Blood, which could also mean many different aspects. So, is it fair to say that there was many different sources of inspiration for this album as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. The trial and prosecution is basically taken from the Passion of the Christ. The brutality that was going on in that movie, and just how he was judged unfairly and stuff like that. Of course, it's Jesus, so it's not like an evil figure. But I mean, I just thought the story was like a universal story of betrayal and just being what's it called? Charged before there's any real trial. Like, I mean, he was already guilty. You know what I mean? So that kind of thing. And Countess of Blood. That's your Countess Bathory. Bathing in blood, and that was her thing, right? It's a bit weird thing.
Yeah,
um, just that kind of stuff. That's what I was
yeah.
writing.
I think it made too much sense that I wore the Garia shirt today. So, yeah. But is like research involved? Kind of, you mentioned like the trial is coming from Passion of the Christ. Do you almost look at a lot of other mediums of art as a means of inspiration for songwriting?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's always some kind of if I'm looking up some new people or historical, things that are happening, there's always some kind of, I have to look into it, and there's, research that goes into it. Of course, it's, I don't want to sound too nerdy about the whole thing, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to be like talking about, like, I mean, that's the only way you're going to get accurate, to do actual research. So I don't want to just sing about things that I don't know about and just make it up like that doesn't
Yeah.
so you got to do research and like look, and it is different mediums. There's there's art, there's movies, there's books. It's all influences me, and um that's just so it just kind of comes from everywhere, and just kind of just researching it. Yeah, like you said, yeah, there's a lot of that.
Is it more or less your interpretation or like your sort of response to it in a way, or are you trying to make it like very documentorial?
um yeah, I think it's more my response to the whole thing. Like, I mean, it's somewhat, it's a little bit documentarial as well. Like, I mean, it's like I'm kind of stating some facts, and like there's like certain things that I, key points that you hit upon when you're reading about this stuff and then you're writing the lyrics. There's certain things you want to get right. But I mean, it's mostly just like a personal view of it.
Yeah, because I think when you open up with a track, "We serve under no god," I think like in the end, like you kind of almost say this is what we're about to say, and then you document sort of your own interpretation of it, and then towards
Yeah,
oppressors ending with it is almost kind of like the ultimate fu at the very end.
Yeah, like I mean that's like that was based on like Crowley's teachings, like what's um of course I'm going blank of everything, like it's a little early for me,
Mm-hmm.
this interview here.
Yeah.
What was I trying to say? Like, the thou shall do what thou wilt, right? You know what I mean? So it's just kind of one of those things, just like I was just kind of basing it on his teachings, but just doing my own kind of riffing on it, like how I feel is just the way to do it. And like, but of course, it's just you're supposed to just kind of live how you want to live. So it's different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Being both a vocalist and a bassist, do both forms of instrumentation express the same side of who you are, or having a voice and also a hand to play bass, maybe you express different parts of who you are?
How do you mean, like?
Does it express different aspects or different emotions or just different sides of who you personally are?
Um, Not really. I mean, like just like playing bass is in a metal band is almost, I don't want to say the word useless, but it's just like it's no, I mean I love bass, don't get me wrong, but but I write on guitar and I do write a little bit on bass, but mostly on guitar. So and being the singer, I have to focus on where all the lyrics are going to go to. So and it's such a skill that I've honed over the years, just being able to play and sing at the same time. So you just got to find where the spaces are to do all that stuff. Um, yeah, I'm not saying that bass is useless because it's definitely necessary for to bridge the gap. But I mean, I'm not doing anything different on bass than the guitars are doing. I don't really see that as kind of a part of what we're doing. It's maybe for certain parts here and there once in a while, but it's not really on the top of my list of things to do. Like it's I'm not trying to make it like into this prog band where everyone's playing something different and wow, look at they're all playing something different. It's not really.
Yeah.
I mean, just riffs is what death metal is about. So that if that's got to be the main focus, right? To me, like so that's where I start and end the whole thing, like that in the lyrics. Like that's the most important stuff.
Yeah, I think if you go tech death, that's a different story. I mean, you see how Archspire plays their bass with the hammer-ons, or you see how Obscura incorporates the fretless bass in there. That's where there's plenty of room for it. But yeah, like when I think of this, when I think of what you do, it's straight up as classic death metal as it gets. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I wasn't, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel with the whole thing. I'm just trying to play solid riffs, good death metal, just, make it as relentless as possible to keep it to the vision that I want. So it's just been it's been a fun ride doing that, creating all the sounds for this band and, creating the riffs and the imagery like has been a part of it as well, like all the art that we've been getting in, just kind of creating the whole imagery of what Tribe of Pazuzu is, and I think it's on track there. So like like that whole tech thing is like it's. I know people love it, some people, so which is cool. I'm not bagging on it, but it's not my thing really. I mean, I've never wrote to be technical. That's it's not really. I don't see the point, so I don't write like that. I mean, I just write riffs. So that's what I know.
yeah. Um, but you mentioned the imagery, and you led me perfectly into the next question because it was this always the vision with the formation of Tribe of Pazuzu. Was that always like the vision that you started this band off with mine, or did the visual aspects kind of like develop as you began to write more music and incorporated the EPs and the full length?
I think the visuals somewhat began like when as soon as I picked the name Pazuzu, I think right away there's one strong visual right there, and then slowly I started picking the album covers. Those were the first visuals people could actually see what the band was about. There was the logo, then there was some album covers, and then we finally got the actual Pazuzu demon, art, and through the whole time, I think all of it kind of it always represents a part of what you do, like album covers, and so that's why it's kind of important to have the album covers reflect what you do as well. So I just thought uh, they fit perfectly the first two for what we were doing. A little bit vague, a little bit kind of like there's like ominous feel to them, and like good textures, and that's basically what I wanted to say about the band at the beginning. So it was a little bit mysterious, I guess, at the beginning. Just but then by the time now, I think it's all out in the open what we're doing and the lyrics and like all the imagery, and so I think we've kind of cemented what we're doing, and people know, like I mean, it's also like what I said before in some interviews, but like the logos, how some people can't read the logos, death metal logos and black metal, and I think that's obviously on purpose, and it's a similar style to what graffiti is for underground culture and hip hop and all that kind of stuff. If you're into that style, you could read graffiti, logos and stuff like that. And so it's not really far removed from that but this is just our thing, like so when you see death metal logos, most people can't read them, but if you like the band, if you know the style, you could point out the logos and know who is who, right?
Yeah,
So that's also a part of it too. Like I wanted to stay within that death metal thing. Like I know people in the past have been like, that's generic, or that's so why do they always do that? Like it's so hard to read. They all look the same, but it's just like, well, this is the style, and I wanted to stay within the style. I'm not trying to bring pink and flowers into the whole thing, or try just to be different, or we have an accordion in our band. It's just like that's not what I was trying to do. Like I mean, and I know some people like that stuff, like, oh wow, these guys are so different, but I I wanted to stay within the framework of what death metal is, what death metal was, and where it's going, and with the blackened influences in there and stuff like that, and just kind of just doing something relentless in a time where people are pulling back and trying to be for radio, or trying to water it down for a bigger audience, and that's definitely not what we're trying to do. So
yeah,
um, and that's just one part of the imagery. Another part of the imagery is that I do want to go on stage and have like a bit of a look similar to Possessed, Morbid Angel, Sadistic Intent, Behemoth, all that kind of stuff, where they stay within that kind of idea of what it is and put on a show, instead of like just going up in your street clothes, like how Metallica made popular in the 80s, like we're just regular guys going up on stage. And it's just like, well, people are paying to see you, so put on a show.
yeah.
That's the kind of way I look at it that way. So
Yeah, death metal shows are always so entertaining, and it's funny you mentioned that too, because death metal like shows are also very diverse within itself, and just in the realm of death metal, like
yeah,
when I see Cannibal Corpse, I love everybody is mesmerized by the amount of windmills Corpse Grinder is capable of, but like Morbid Angel, like the way like there's something very unsettling about the static nature. I never saw Morbid Angel with Dave, but I saw them with Steve, and like the way that there's like that sort of static energy because he's singing and playing. There's something very
right,
intimidating about that. And Glenn Benton from Deicide as well. So like you're right that there is sort of like a performance aspect behind it that like I don't think is
yeah, definitely.
appreciated enough. And you mentioned the unreadable logos. It's a lot of people think that that's there is definitely a comical aspect behind it. Metal Sucks always has a contest on who can like guess the unreadable logo first, but you are right, it is almost kind of like its own language in a way. Like I love the
Yeah, for
analogy
sure.
I love how you compared it to graffiti. Actually, I thought that was a really interesting analogy.
That's right. Yeah, that's because it is very particular to the style, but it's something that does happen within other music cultures. But you don't recognize it because it's a different thing. Some people might just like just you just see graffiti, you don't get it. But I mean, there is a correlation to it where it is intrinsic to that style. Same as how like death metal logos, they all like confuse people, or like they look the same, or they're all scary. Like, and that is part of what death metal is. But as we know, like I mean, it is just imagery. We're not going around like, rah, like, do we want to kill people? We're like, fuck everybody, but this is more of like a mentality of it, like that we don't like mainstream culture, and this is why we do what we do.
Yeah, and death metal in general, not just within their logos, is a very hard thing to read in a way because I've interviewed, I would say that from the Immolations to Morbid Angels to Cannibal Corpse, I've interviewed plenty of people in death metal. They're always the nicest people in a way. So it is
True,
like
yeah,
it is sort of like I feel like death metal has always stood for paradoxes. And one more thing about the unreadable logos, let's be real, even though there is a deep meaning behind it, nothing is funnier than when they're on a flyer and they have to Photoshop the actual name underneath it.
yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you still want people to, know who you are and like come out, right? So there's still like, if you don't know the band, sometimes it is hard to read the logo, but I mean that changes quickly as soon as you become a fan, and you're like, then you know the logo, and then when you see it on a shirt, you recognize it, even though you can't read it right away. Sometimes, like you still recognize the look of the logo,
Yeah.
and what you were saying about like death metal still being like different styles and like somewhat diverse. So, like I mean, you still be original within this old framework of music. Like I mean, the death metal is like coming up to 40 years. Like since it's been kind of like established. Like 35 to 40 years, right? I mean, so you I think bands can still keep it fresh within that framework. You don't have to go outside of that, but also like every band contributes to something different. So no matter, even if you're all playing the same riffs, sometimes I mean it will be played different from band to band because there's so many bands that are different styles. Cannibal Corpse is way different than Morbid Angel, which is different than DSI, like how you mentioned, or which is also different than Azarath or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
every band has their own kind of style. Like there's not too many bands that sound alike or write alike.
Yeah. And
Unless they're doing it on purpose.
yeah, of
Like
course. Yeah, and I mean, there's a whole rebirth of bands bringing back the classic sound between Gatecreeper, Sanguisugabog, Frozen Soul, Undeath, Creeping Death. Like it just seems like it's a part that it's ironic how the genre with death in its name seems to not die.
right, right. Which if you look back at it, like the brutality of it all, like it didn't seem like it was gonna last. Like I mean, when you heard even Altars of Madness. Every 1989 was the year it kind of officially broke. I guess we're not broke, but just kind of more established itself. Because I mean, there was Death, there was Possessed, there was all that stuff before. But I think '89 when Altars of Madness came out, Symphonies of Sickness, Slowly We Rot, it just kind of more cemented things. It's just like, oh, this genre's coming up. It's a little bit different than thrash was. You know what I mean? This is death metal, and it scared some people in the death metal scene, which is weird. Like they don't like the vocals sometimes, but it's just like you're already listening to thrash, but you don't like death metal vocals. What's really the difference? Of course, vocals all are very subjective to each person. Like when you hear something, like it doesn't hit everybody's ear the same. So it's one of those things that is a deciding factor of liking bands. You know what I mean? Like the vocals, but I mean and this is what I was saying. Like it still has, like you're saying, like there's all these new bands that are doing this old school style. So that has to say something that there is a longevity to it, or something of appreciation to it that it could keep it going.
Of
So
course.
it's cool to see that like so many years later. And like I was saying, like how it's like you can still be original within that framework. It doesn't need to explore too much else outside of it. And so it's just, as long as people are writing good killer riffs, like you can just keep moving forward with it, right?
Definitely, definitely. And you let me perfect, and I have two more questions for you. One is, of course, being such a prolific artist between Overthrow and Soulstorm. I believe you played with Pestilence for a period of time, and now with Tribe of Pazuzu. In the end, you're right. It's all about killer riffs and sheer brutality. So, is there at all though anything that has made the creative process different in a way, or is there a method behind the madness that applies to every project that you're involved with?
um, when I started Tribe, I wanted to be everything that I wanted to do in music that I haven't done in the past. You know what I mean? Like I kind of wanted it to just be like all out relentless. I didn't care about is this song gonna be like a good tempo for radio, or is this song gonna is everyone gonna like this song? And in fact, I went back and anything that was too slow or mid paced, I either cut it down or cut it out. So that's why there's like a really relentless nature to all the songwriting, because there's no filler in there. There's nothing to appease anybody except for, unless you're looking for just relentless riffs, just brutal riffs, songwriting. That's all I was going for. I wasn't trying to be, you know, um, too much thought into it, and as far as trying to be in places where death metal doesn't go, like the commercial aspect of it. Like I wasn't trying to push it into something like that. I just wanted to uh, created within the framework that's already established, and just be like as heavy as possible, and just do it the way that I wanted to.
Mm-hmm. And the
I think
final
I answered the question.
Yeah, perfectly, perfectly. And the final question I wanted to ask you is because in the end, like the way that death metal incorporates darkness, and it has morphed it into, death metal is the sound of sheer darkness, and it's explored through riffs and growls and blast beats and all this. But here is a question I've asked a lot of artists too, and we resonate with this music in a very profound way. But I've always said that sometimes artists can become victims of their own products in a way where sometimes we succumb to madness in using it as our subject matter. So has the songwriting process ever been just as deteriorating as it can be cathartic in a way, or not really at all?
Um, I don't know about deteriorating as far as what I was writing, but there was a point in time when, especially in the '90s, when I was doing the Soulstorm stuff, it was very nihilistic what we were doing in that band. Because that band, I was trying to be far away from everything else. I was trying to do my own thing with Soulstorm and just make it as original as possible and just make it kind of just as nihilistic as possible too. It was very dark. So there's a lot of themes on those things that I was talking about. Uh, Not just like just depression and anxiety type of things, but like I mean, there was a lot of mental things, like things with the mind and just other aspects of all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't really, I guess maybe writing about that stuff can affect you to a certain extent, but it's more like um, you come up with lines that you deal with on a daily basis and like like the daily grind of life and stuff like that, and then you just kind of you come up with lines and you just kind of approach it. I think it was more like maybe documenting a few things actually when I look back, you know
Yeah.
but they fit into lyrical forms and aspects like that. But and then the newer stuff, I don't really think it's I do I was able to focus more, like even by reading books like Lords of Chaos or Choosing Death, which was the history of all the death metal. Like that's such a great book, and it took me back to the feeling of what it was like when death metal was first introduced. When I was playing thrash, and I have like certain thrash influences, and it's all part of what I was trying to do with the band, and I just didn't want to go through the numbers of it. Just I just really wanted to be brutal about it, like. So I think the songwriting now is more focused, and it's not about me or things that I go through. It's about darkness in life and stuff like that, and the darker aspects. And it is a cathartic thing, I believe, too. So like you go to a show, you could be the most brutal show, like Cannibal Corpse, you know what I mean, and thousands of people there, and no one's getting into fights, no one's it's all a calm atmosphere. And that's one thing that there's probably a misconception of, right? I mean, like you listen to the music, you think like, holy shit, these people are getting together down the street at this venue, and these guys are crazy, butchered at birth or whatever, like they start rhyming off some song titles, and they think they know it all, what we're about. But it's just very the imagery is very graphic, but it's also very cathartic.
Yeah.
Like how it's just a part of the music. It's just like the imagery, like it's not something that we take serious. It's like a horror movie, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, I
that's the
mean,
analogy.
I think it's like the modern day gladiators or the modern day Colosseum. Like humanity was born out of fucking violence. So like
Sure, right, right.
and I've always said death metal. This is the slogan I've pitched it to every death metal musician I've interviewed: evil music for good people.
Right, right. That sounds good.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for such an awesome conversation. Just anything else that you would like to promote with the release of Blasphemous Prophecies in terms of tours, or what else we could be expecting from Tribe of Pazuzu in the near future?
Just yeah, we're hoping to do something in the summer, but getting trying to get everyone on the same page. Flow is super busy. I think there's going to be a for sure Cryptopsy release this year, so I got to work around Flo if I want him to come out, and and Randy's got his things going on, so we'll figure something out. But I definitely want to get out there this year, so
Okay.
hopefully.
We'd love to have you here in New York, man. There's plenty of brutal stages just with your guys' names on it.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot for the interview. Thanks for doing that. Appreciate it.
Anytime, man.
Thanks
Anytime.
for having me.
Everybody, we are here with Tribe of Pazuzu, Blasphemous Prophecies. Be sure to pick that up. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.